in handicap zones who you want to strangle. Do you feel like strangling those people? I get so infuriated because they're ripping off something that was created for the really handicapped. You know, the parking zones. And every time I see a person parking when I stare at them, when they get out, and then all of a sudden they look at you, they reach for a fake cane, and then they hobble over into they make believe that they're... I know the game. They get some quack doctor to write that they have arthritis, and they get a blue card. It's sickening. And the same thing is going on with the children with special needs. The scant resources that are available are being ripped off by people who claim their child has this and has that, and then they get them, tutors, all to cash in on the system. 855-407-282. What do you want to talk about? WABC, Judy, welcome to the Savage Nation. What's on your mind?
Hi, Michael. I want you to know I'm going to stop crying now. When I heard you talk about your brother, and describe him like such an angel, and that at the age of 5 they shipped him off, and how you suffered, and how your mother must have suffered. I'm just so emotional. And then you don't want to talk about it, but I wanted to hear more. And then you started reading on more, but I was holding on. I couldn't hear. But my point is, I do relate on some level because my daughter, 17 years ago, gave birth to a special needs, legally blind, speech-impaired, motor skill challenged child. And I have been in his life for all this time. And when I think about these horror stories from Willowbrook and what you tell me about your brother and how he died, it's just so upsetting to me. And I know you're probably walking around with such crazy guilt, and you should not feel guilty about anything. You were a kid yourself. And you just be a champion for all these special kids. That's what you should do, Michael. I'm just so upset. I don't know, you really upset me a lot.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282.
Again, we're celebrating VE Day, Victory Over Hitler Day. It's called VE, Victory Over Europe Day. Of course, the Japanese were defeated on a different day back in the ancient times when America still had a historical memory. We're talking about the UK election and how it's somewhat of a distortion to believe the Conservatives won because the campaign advisor for the conservative leader is Barack Obama's campaign advisor, Jim Messina. So what does that tell you? It tells you it's all the whole thing is a shuck and jive. And then being May 8th, it's my deceased brother's birthday, my silent brother, and so I'm dedicating the whole show to all real special need children. That's what it comes down to. And if you care to join the conversation, the phone number, well, we have one open line at 855-407-282. I've got some great calls here, and I'm not trying to limit it to any one of these topics. We have other things to talk about as well, but I don't know. May 8th is a big day for me. And frankly, I'm a sort of an emotional state of flux right now. I don't know which way my emotions are going to take me. And I'm really I couldn't even answer that last caller when she called and she was broken up. I wanted to say something to her, but I wasn't in the proper voice to reply to her, to be honest with you, because I heard how wrecked she was from the member, her own situation. And she was feeling for me, I think, more than anything else. And I got more compassion from her than I did from anyone in my life, frankly, in my own life. I come from a very tough family, and I come from a very old world family. They don't look at the world the way most of you do. And I got to tell you, you come from immigrant people. They don't see the world the same way that most Americans do. And I think it's true today. They have a very harsh view of reality. And, particularly the Russians. Did we lose the feed here, Robert? I keep hearing beeping. Okay, anyway, I'm sorry. I'm just in the studio. I'm spooked. So anyway, the point is that, there was a pretty harsh opinion on this at the time, which I'd rather not even mention, to be frank with you. So let's take some calls on the Savage Nation. WLWI Radio. Celia, welcome to the Savage Nation. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Michael. I, too, have a silent daughter. I had rubella, which got her sight, her hearing, her speech. She had heart damage, but she's still alive. She is with a care family who can handle her way much better than I could. There is a light in her eyes, but I could never find enough help at the time of her birth. She'll be 58 in December.
Wow.
Yes.
She lived that long.
Yes, they don't know why, but there is a purpose. God has given her to us for a reason.
That's right.
And
See, I believe whether it's God or fate, there is a reason that can be, let's say, gleaned from such situations and used to the betterment of the family. I, for one, I'll tell you from my point of view, Celia, I've thought about it, my whole life. And when I became an adult, I started to realize the more I thought about it that I am living for him as well as for myself. And on the days I don't feel like doing the show or I don't feel like working very hard, I do it for him. I feel as though there's two men inside of me, he and I. I feel that his heart beats inside of mine. I mean, I'm living for him.
When you were with him, you've got to keep that in your heart, because if he knew you were there and you knew it, then you made him so happy that words cannot even describe.
Well, I tell you this, learning how to communicate with him taught me how to communicate with animals and how to communicate with audiences, because audiences who you don't know or see really are not very dissimilar, incidentally. And it's a gift to be able to actually, you can communicate with, people can talk to an audience and not communicate with them. Very few people can emote with an audience. Very few people can make an audience feel their feelings. Entertainers who are good can do that. And I can do it. It's not common in talk radio. A lot of it's good, but it's two-dimensional or one-dimensional. But it doesn't really touch the people emotionally. It may touch them intellectually or mentally, But I know that many people listen to the show feel like I'm talking directly to them and they're talking directly to me. I am a part of their life. Isn't that correct with you, Celia?
Thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend. She's not really my friend, but thank you. I just, it's just a matter of habit. So, look, I don't want to bum you guys out today with this story. Many of you probably don't want to talk about it. I get it. It's kind of sad. But so what? Pathos is part of life. That's what's missing in so much of our discussion. If you listen to even why do you think conservatives are so misunderstood? Because they're so bombastic in their descriptions of what they would like to see in the nation and the world, and I'm responsible for the same mentality some of the time. People lose the fact that they actually have a compassionate desire to save the country for the betterment of most mankind. But that's what we're talking about here, is compassion at the end of the day. So let's go on to some of the callers here. KKQA, is that, Deborah, KKOH in Reno, Nevada. Welcome to the Savage Nation. What's on your mind, Deborah?
I have a son that was born in 1970. He went through a labor and delivery he shouldn't have. The doctors knew better. I had tremendous labor for days and days. They finally took him emergency surgery, and he suffered a massive brain injury. I was told the night before leaving the hospital by a nurse, thank God for her, you know what, they're going to tell you tomorrow not to bring him home. He's a vegetable. It'll ruin your life. She said, I could lose my job over this. She says, your baby is very, very sick. He is brain injured. He's convulsing constantly. But if you put him in an institution, he stands no chance at all. If you take him home, you can always place him at any time. Well, I took him home. He walked at 18 months. He started to talk at about 5. Now, he is severely developmentally disabled. He walks, he talks. I had him housebroken at 18 months. And I just recently, in August, had to place him in a group home because the years of medication for his seizures and behaviors have... I
think what you're saying is had you had him terminated in the hospital, you wouldn't have had any good years with him, right?
He would be dead.
But, Deborah, let me ask you something. In your heart of hearts, do you feel he enjoys any part of his day?
Yes, I do. I do. He communicates. He tells you what he likes and what he
Well, that's the part that kills me, when I think about it, because if my brother had been born today in these times, which are so more advanced than what the doctors knew in those times, I see kids like him in wheelchairs in Berkeley, California, who are completely incapacitated physically, who are moving a wheelchair, let us say, almost with their brain waves.
You saw that in him.
I knew that. I knew more than a stupid doctor, may he rest in hell, knew. I knew more than a doctor. I was 5 years old, and I knew more than the idiot doctor.
Because they turn their back, and they convince parents to turn their back, that your life will be over if you do this. Yeah, you do.
Well, I know when I whistle to my dog, now my little dog, Teddy, I feel like I'm communicating in the same way. You know, I look at the dog and he's sleeping next to me during a show or in the morning, and sometimes I want to talk to him. I start to praise him. You know, dogs, their eyes light up. They love praise, don't they? Don't they just love, animals just love you to recognize them.
I have 3 of them.
And so this brings us, and I want to move on, Deborah, thank you. I want to make it a more generic discussion. It's one of the reasons I'm an animal rights activist, which I am, and one of the reasons that I dedicate funds and whatever I can do to save elephants. And I think we've done gorillas and dogs and stuff. We never talk about it. We don't wear it on our sleeve. But the fact is, there's a reason for it. They're defenseless. These animals are defenseless in this mechanized world filled with a vicious beast called man, hunting them to extinction. And so we have to be our brother's keeper in that regard. We have to protect our little animal friends. I was reading about koala bears last night. You know, those cute little furry bears from Australia. I just saw one. I looked into it because I love my dog so much. I said, gee, I wonder if I can get a koala bear. Well, I found out no one is allowed to keep a koala bear as a pet because there were about millions of them in Australia before the European invaded the continent. And then now they're down to about 80,000. They're a protected species. And their habitat is being denuded on a regular basis. They eat eucalyptus leaves, would you believe it? No other animal has evolved to the point where they can eat a eucalyptus leaf. If you want to think about the miracle of evolution, the koala eats eucalyptus leaves, and he extracts from the eucalyptus leaf nutrients on which he lives, including moisture, which is his water supply in an arid region. It's miraculous, this little animal. They sleep 20 to 22 hours a day. I can go for that. But they sleep a lot because the energy their bodies require to digest the harsh eucalyptus leaf is very high. The high requirements for calories to digest the leaf. They chew and chew and chew and chew and chew and chew and chew. And so it's a very, very calorie-intensive process, and they preserve their energy by sleeping. It's a phenomenal adaptation in the koala bear. But nevertheless, my little dog Teddy reminds me of a koala bear, so that's why I thought about it. But they are protected in Australia, and people know that. They treat them very, very well because there are sensitive people on the earth, except in China. I would say in China is the most vicious nation on the earth with regard to animals. They are absolutely rapacious. And if there was really a UN, they would arrest the people who are selling and trading in ivory. But I would suspect, by what I know about the world, that there are UN people listening to this show who are in the ivory trade behind the scenes. That's how much faith I have in the United Nations. So we're liable to see the elephant go extinct in our lifetime. Maybe Rush Limbaugh can laugh about it and say, ho, 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 ho. Well, I eat elephant meat. You think I have no contempt for these people who hate animals or make a joke of those of us who protect animals, saying it's not a conservative thing to be kind to animals? I spit on them. That's how I feel about it. Leviticus. Now, what does the Bible say about handicapped people and how to treat them? You're going to be shocked when I read Leviticus to you because it may not be what you thought. You want to talk about harshness? You're about to hear it when I return right here on the Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Your Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com. It's the only company I trust for tangible assets, gold and silver. Call 800-BUICOIN. So we're talking about severely handicapped children. And this show is dedicated to my silent brother, Jerome, who was born on May 8th, 1944, and died when he was a young kid, really. He wasn't really that young, but he died in a home. Call it a home, some home, like a snake pit. That's how they were treated. So the show is dedicated to all real special needs children. And I think that the mark of a society is how you care for the weakest members of the society. That's certainly been said before. And on that list, we're probably right at the top of the list in the United States of America. Now let's look around the world. Ask yourselves how ISIS treats the handicapped I would imagine that anyone who sets other human beings alive on fire while they're alive wouldn't have much of a respect for the hand